Okay, we are recording the GoToMeeting for month 6, and are we in week 3 already?
Yes, sir.
Week
Yep.
3, Wednesday night, so just a few nights left of that. In attendance, myself, Anna, Jeff, Martin, and Suzanne. Okay. Well, how's everybody feeling?
Okay.
Scared.
Pretty good.
Yeah? Okay. There's a lot of stuff going on for everybody, I know. All right. Well, let's get started. Has anybody had a chance to watch all of the videos? All of the DMBs?
All but mine.
Okay. What just happened to my screen? It is frozen up. Let's see.
Oh,
There we go.
Can you guys hear me?
I
Yes.
can.
I can.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. My headset's being used, so I'm just going to use my internal mic here.
Okay.
Okay.
What are y'all seeing this? My
It's white.
That's been the story of my life today. Here
Yeah, I know. It
it
shows that
goes.
it's there and now it's gone. Okay. Let's try starting over. This is some exciting stuff. Any questions anybody has right off the bat? Any housekeeping issues, anything like that?
Nope,
Nope.
not till we
Lydra's
delve
not
into that
here. I knew
project.
somebody was missing. Lydra's not here. Let's see. Okay. And it usually takes a second when we have all these videos for it to catch up. Sorry for the technical delays. All right. Look, there's Jeff's. Let's see. Um,
You want to look at the first one or this one?
this is the latest version, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's watch it. Everybody watch Jeff's.
Audio.
Okay, comments?
I think it looks great.
Why does it look great?
It just looks very professional.
What about it looks
Transitions are
professional?
smooth. The animation, I like the way you animated your logo. I'd like to do
Okay.
something similar with mine once I actually design one.
Okay.
I like
Jeff,
the
did you
font.
create that logo?
Yes.
Okay. Logo is next month. So um,
Hey,
It's you ahead of
you're just
time.
ahead of the game. Um, all right. Yeah, the logo is nice.
that's a big part of my campaign.
Yeah.
So,
Other comments?
It's very smooth. All the animations are very smooth, very elegant.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Which
To get
is
that,
which is what?
I believe it's
Relevant to
definitely
the
tying
scene.
in with what he's trying to convey.
Yeah, it's appropriate to the campaign. What's missing?
Some textures,
Typography, I
maybe?
think.
Textures? What else?
And his
Typography.
color numbers.
Yep. Color specs? What else?
Is that your only keyword experience, Jeff?
no, if you notice on the on the bar below.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Healing,
Yeah.
elegant, and something else.
Hmm.
I should put something else.
And what else is missing?
It's type of font.
Say it again.
I think
Type,
Typography.
it's type of font.
Typography.
Yeah.
typeface.
Yeah. There's obviously typography there. There is a color palette that goes by, but we don't know that that's your color palette, and we don't know that you've what typography you've actually chosen.
If you move the cursor and allow the timeline, or I don't know even if it will drop down, but as each word pops, or not pops, but as it gradiates on, beneath each word is each color. There
Yep.
now not with the label, but
Right. Um, I saw that. It took me a few
Mhm.
watches to see it, and it's not quickly and clearly communicate. Like you're talking about right down here.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can see the
it could be
color,
more
but
bold.
it's a little difficult um, to see them. But we do see them, and then they come across the screen and go up there. But we need a designated color palette area and then a designated typography area where you tell us what is the name of the font choice and where you'll use it, basically, or how you'll use it. Okay. It's not a commercial; it's a mood board. Um,
Oh, well,
it
I
is
wouldn't have known
real.
commercials.
It is really smooth. It is really appropriate to the campaign. All your elements are working together very nicely. Um, you just need to add
Now wait,
those mood board parts in there. I do have a question for you with regard to having your images, such as the cross and then that leaf shape, having it cross over the word experience. What's going on there?
because
Why are
your
you doing that?
experience. I'm wanting to emphasize experience. So initially, I have that as a header,
Uh huh.
and then it fades out. Then it comes back up as a background. And well, I'd be lying if I said it was part of the texture, but it's not. But
Hmm.
it's saying experience comfort, experience healing,
Right.
and so as the images fade away, the word experience is still up there
Uh huh.
as a message subliminally. I don't know, something that moves the words along.
Well, my question is, why are you covering it? Like, you have the E partially covered with the leaf, and then you have the red cross shape right here coming down into the middle of it.
Well, yeah, I guess if I had my druthers, I would have said, "What do you guys think that word is behind the image?" And if you already know as it's playing through, um, that would be my goal.
Well, we do know what it is, but why would you cover it? I'm saying is the issue. I mean, just because we know what's back
Because it's
there.
well, because it's not something I want to be. I don't want it to be the primary focus of attention. I like it as kind of that background um, watermark.
Hmm. It's
So more of a watermark than a you know title.
right. But it's kind of caught in between right now. I mean, I get what you're saying. I'm not saying this is wrong and it's bad. I'm just saying that um, it's just sort of caught. It's not enough of a watermark and it's not enough of an obvious word. You had mentioned before, you sort of alluded to the fact that it might be a texture or that you might want to use it as a texture. And that makes sense, but you're not quite using it as a texture because it's just the one. If it were repeated over and over and it was more muted, then we would see it as more of a texture. But just having the one word, the one time on there, and having it at the particular opacity that you have it where it stands out and is legible more makes it something that you focus on. It's not enough in the background to be the background yet. Does that make sense?
Uh, A little bit.
Okay.
Enough.
Yeah, and there are plenty of answers for how you could fix it. It looks like from a professional standpoint, it looks like you haven't quite done exactly what you want to do yet by covering up the word.
No, I haven't. Well, I'll wait till we get on to
Well,
there's a
go ahead.
timing issue that I have I'm a little irked by.
What?
Mhm.
No, and it's a timing. Just the time constraints of that I'll mention maybe later,
Okay.
um, are something of they have to do with the color labels. They have to do with a lot of the communication.
Do you want to talk? You're confusing me. Do we need to talk about
No,
it
I want to
now?
watch. I'd like to watch some of the other drafts
Oh, okay.
and this and kind of you know gather the points
Okay.
around those, and because it's not just my spot that's going to be affected.
Right. And then Forest Park is not coming up long enough at the end.
No,
It's
it's
not
not.
fully up and then it disappears. So, um,
That's another. If I would have gone 5 seconds over, it would have.
right.
It does fade out gracefully.
Yeah.
Mm.
And to that end, you can probably cut something and rearrange a little bit somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Um, overall, overall, again, like everybody's saying, smooth and professional, and it feels like good work. So, uh, overall, nice job. Just needs to have a little bit more dynamic mood board feel and less commercial feel.
Oh, it looks like I commented 3 times on
You
Susan's comment.
did.
Sorry about
You
that.
liked it that much. Good
Yeah,
job.
I'm off today,
Hello,
guys.
folks.
Sorry.
Okay. Um,
I
and
don't know if you can
oh,
hear
Steve's
me.
here. Hi.
We can hear you.
All right. Yeah, I'm actually using my cell phone as a hotspot at the moment
Okay.
because my internet's down.
Okay. Welcome. We are going on to Suzanne's. Did anybody watch it and have initial comments?
I like the most recent one she put up. I like
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
color palette on it much better.
Why do you like it?
Well, the she's on her ninth iteration, I think, or
Hmm.
eighth. Uh, the one before had those balls all different sizes, like in a swirl down the left hand side, and they were all flashing and different sizes and
Hmm.
pulsing, and it was a huge distraction to the left hand side of the screen, at least in my opinion.
Hmm.
So you're looking at these, what they're animating, doing, and by the time you realize what you're looking at and that you're supposed to be looking at the different color palette designations, those designations were gone. You had already moved on. The
Hmm.
balls in the center, they're still animating, they're still doing their thing, but it's drawing your attention to the center of the screen, and you got all the designations right there.
Okay.
So I think you're more likely to see the designations, but you're still my attention is immediately grabbed by the animation on that screen. So I don't know. I guess it's, 50-50. The animation helps. It's fun, it's cute and whatnot, and you're doing something with it. But at the same time, it drags your attention away from the information being presented on that screen. However, I like it better than the iteration before.
Okay. She's had a few iterations. She's had a few different ideas for her color palette, and she's put them all up over the last day or so.
Right.
Um, Jeff, do you have any thoughts on the color palette? composition?
I think if you simplified the animation, um, and kept the labels, if overall, I think that the labels are a lot to take in when you're watching, a dynamic mood board. So it's if you're going to have them on screen and you really want them to be tagging each color, it's going to be hard if the colors are moving because if you put the text with the color, you wouldn't be able to read it. If you move the colors away from the text, then it's kind of you're guessing which ones go with which color.
Right.
Um, so in the very end, you finally see that, but then you don't really get a chance to uh, take in the label at that point.
Right. Um, Martin, can you talk about the hierarchy of this page and the layout for the layout? How is this page communicating? How well is this page communicating?
I feel it's communicating the information well. I mean, she's got the title very large that it's the color palette, which is very plain and simple at the top for everyone to see. And then your main focus is directly in the middle where the animation takes place and the colors are present. I kind of agree with what Jeff was saying. If we tone down the animation a bit so that maybe this portion of the color palette stands still with the colors in their designated spots so that you know exactly which color goes to which numbers. Um, I think that would be a strong change.
Um, Tell me about it's RGB, not RBG,
Do I
right?
have? Did I
Yeah.
write it
RGB.
Yeah,
backwards?
Yeah,
Oh
RGB.
shoot.
RGB. I'm like, wait a minute, am I getting that wrong? RGB CMYK. What is that, Martin? Tell me what that is and why it's placed where it is, and talk to me about the hierarchy here.
Well, with RGB being red, green, and blue,
Uh-huh.
being at the top left, and then CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black
Uh-huh.
for your print colors. They are a little separated from the numbers
They're
that they
more
are
than a little
represented.
separated from the numbers.
So it maybe if they were duplicated above each designated, section
Hmm.
for each color, that might bring in a little more understanding to what exactly you're
Hmm.
looking at. Um,
Right. Where is RGB CMYK in relation to the header?
um, it's far left. Actually, I'm looking at this on my screen, and since it's paused, as you can see, the little
Yeah, parts of it are hidden.
yeah,
Title save.
um, the proximity of it is a little bit off. So I think if it was duplicated above the numbers, it would help out.
Well, where is it? Talk to me about where it is in relation to the header.
That's to the left.
Okay, and is it below the header?
Actually, it's in line with that or at the top. It looks like it's aligned to the top, so maybe it
Yes.
should be below it so that you know.
It's competing with the header because it's not only in line with the header visually because it has all that space beneath it because it's smaller. It almost feels like it's above the header because it's off to the left. It's almost like it's sitting just above the header as if it would be possibly a folio, or folio is printing term for page number, as if it were a page number or some other categorizing element. So basically, if you've got a header, anything that you have on that page needs to be beneath the header so that the header is the king of that page. It is the head of the page. Um, and it's also separated from the actual numbers. And the way it's written is RGB slash CMYK, but then where the numbers are, we can't even make the connection that those are RGBs and CMYKs because there's no slash. So in terms of hierarchy, we're sort of not sure what we're looking at. Now, any designer would eventually figure it out, but it's just not quick and clear is the issue. Do you want somebody to have to look at that and go, wow, they don't quite understand hierarchy? Um, are they sure what CMYK and RGB numbers are, or which ones are which? So you got to be really careful with your hierarchy, essentially. Um, and Jeff mentioned, sort of simplifying and sort of connecting colors with numbers and RGB. Does anybody have a solution for this page? Just a quick and easy solution?
I would either smear the colors into their own sections and put align each of the number sets with like make an RGB column and a CY and
CMYK.
K. Yes, I'm a little confused at this point.
Yeah, I know.
Uh, um, and they can live next to the colors, and the colors can occupy maybe half of the page, and then you'll have your your different colors in, I mean, labels
Hmm.
in separate columns, and all, of course, beneath the header, and maybe to the right.
Well, and let's talk grid. Let's think of a grid right now. Let's go back to, I think we mentioned maybe a couple of go-to meetings ago about making columns. And if you have RGB written once right here where my cursor is, and then you had CMYK written once right here where my cursor is, then we would know that, like a grid, this line is RGB and this line is CMYK. And then in columns, you had RGB, CMYK for blue, RGB, CMYK for yellow, RGB, CMYK for gray, RGB, CMYK for green. You could even put them in the actual colors, and that would drive home the point more. And then above each one of those, you could have the balls bouncing. Quick and easy, clear communication as to what we're looking at. Here are the RGBs, here are the CMYKs, and here are the color balls over each one of those things. And if you chose to or not, you could make the numbers the same colors as well. And it's boom, it's all there. It's clear and quick. Yes. There is a little issue we've got up front. I think you do it a couple of times. Um, why are you highlighting the first letter of some of your words?
Well, I was just playing with the font, making the first letters larger than the rest.
Okay. And they're different colors. So they stand out, and they're separated from our eye, so we kind of see it makes F, R, H, and I important from a viewer standpoint. Do you see what I mean?
Hmm.
If there's not a motivated design reason for doing that, then don't do it. First letters are very difficult. Two common mistakes, or common, I don't know if you always want to call it a mistake, because sometimes there are good design reasons for it, but two common occurrences, we'll say, um, are changing color. Let's see, can you guys see this? Changing the color of the first letter for not really an apparent reason, and or using the same first letter for different words. And in pretty much all cases, it just reads poorly. It's disconcerting. There's a lot of things wrong with this particular design. We sometimes use this as an example of a lot of what not to do's. But one of the things is there's a giant R there that's in black, and your eye is definitely drawn to it. And I know that it doesn't seem like it takes any time to figure out refresh, repaint, and then re-inspire, but it does take some time. You do have, and then depending on the colors, you start off going e-fresh, which, with all the I words and E words that we have, like email and iPod or whatever, e-fresh, e-paint, those could be something in and of themselves these days. A big black R isn't connected with the blue. It isn't connected with this. This is cyan right here, or this is CMYK. It's not connected with the magenta or with the yellow. So it takes a second for you to do it. It's just not quick and clear communication. Does everybody see what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so if there's not
Yes.
a motivated reason, if FRHI stood for the name of the company and it was part of the logo and it was going to become the logo, I could see how you might want to do that. But if you're not using FRHI, there's no design motivation. There's no reason to go ahead and highlight those. So don't. You could conceivably, you've got 4 colors and you've got 4 big words. You could change the entire word to a different color, possibly, if you wanted to try some things out. However, quick and clear communication is really what you're trying to do. And I think that if you did make the entire word a different color, you might have some cacophony there, a little visual difficulty. And in the same vein, you have a different font for what is. Is there a reason for that?
Only because I wanted the title to stand out more than the question.
Excellent. And that's a motivated reason, and I can see how you'd want to do that. Now, going back to Jeff's, the same thing Jeff was kind of having, this is not really standing out enough. It's basically the same color. It actually kind of, your brain puts a little green in there because we see the green in the other letters. So it kind of feels like it's part teal and part gray like the rest of it. So, and it's, a sans serif and it's all capitalized, just like this is all capitalized. So it's not different enough. Just like Jeff's background was not quite a background yet, not quite a texture, this is the same thing. It's not different enough for it to stand out. So if you want it to stand out and kind of make this, sort of the logo, I know you're going to work on logo next month, so this isn't the logo, but you want the title to stand out and you want it to be more important, then you need to possibly make this even a little smaller because it's kind of close to the same size and it's not different enough. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Does everybody see that? Can I get some more confirmation?
Yes, makes sense.
Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
and also, in terms of the animation, we have everything except the is dancing. Is there a reason for that, or what was your motivation?
Well, when I was animating it, it seemed that it almost took away from the title a little bit. Um, I guess I could make it part of the same motion. I've been kind of playing with this because I just felt like the motion isn't quite smooth enough on it. It's
Okay,
kind of one's going one way, one's going the other, and so I just kind of stopped the animation on the.
on the. Okay, well, talk to me a little bit about, in the same way that I talked about what is not standing out visually in a static form, is what is standing out in terms of animation? Or rather, is the title standing apart from what is?
Is standing apart.
How is it standing apart from what is?
Only when it animates, it just animates. See, it's different. It like,
Well, it's not. It's the
is that
timing
what
is
you mean?
well.
Is the
What
timing?
I'm trying to get somebody to iterate or show a rationale similar to what I just did for
I
how what
would,
is
but
type is different. Go ahead, Stephen.
I can't run the chat and the school website at the same time, so I can't even go back to look at it.
Oh, okay,
I'm running through a 3G cell phone at the moment.
okay. Um,
What?
it,
So with the what is, the animation aspect of it.
mhm.
It seems like that if you're going to make it stand apart, you might want to freeze it instead of the.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is standing out here in terms of animation is the is not animating and everything else is. So it's that you're actually separating the from the title and you're including what is in terms of that. So if you want the title and what is to stand apart from each other, don't animate what is because it's not part of Families Restoring the Homefront Incorporated. But include the as part of the animation because it is part of it. That would be a design motivation. And then, of course, the E in engaged is a different color than the rest of it.
I'll change it.
Yeah,
It's
we've
showing
discussed
through.
no need for that.
Mhm.
Um, how do you feel about adding the gray to your bottom colors?
I liked it. It made it stand out more and it made it a
Good.
little more distinctive.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you tried a lot of things? Have you tried making the blue and the yellow larger? Maybe putting them in the center where they're easier, where they show up more. Maybe putting them across the center or making them thicker so that they take up more space. Have you tried anything like that?
No.
Are you interested in trying anything like that? What do
Do
you
you
think?
mean like behind the pictures, like centered, or you mean just more of it on the page?
I, well, either. I'm saying that the yellow and the blue are not showing up maybe as well as you'd want them to because they're so thin and small and at the bottom.
Hmm.
So they're not driving home the idea of the campaign as much as you might want. I mean, but you're the designer. Maybe you want it to be mostly white. I don't know. Did anybody else have any ideas on that?
Yeah, I think making those stripes at the bottom a little thicker, even though, it would kind of go into the bottom of your picture, I think, it's
Sure.
easier to see, especially now when he has it paused, you can't even see the pictures because of
Yeah.
the play bar on the bottom.
Hmm.
So yeah, that might look good. Or even like you said, putting it in the middle. I don't know if that would interfere with any of your other frames, besides these picture ones, but that might look cool too, just like straight across the middle.
Could you use it to separate the title? I mean, that would be a leap
Yeah, might
because
work too.
Hmm.
you might, that you're messing with fire. But is it wait? Is it here
Are you referring to the header or just the title?
the color bar,
Right. Well,
bars
you said
across
could
the
you
bottom?
use them to separate the title? Did you mean separate the header on each one, or do you mean the title?
Yes, header.
The header. Okay.
Or even using the bars around your pictures in those colors to frame the
Yeah.
pictures. Thick,
That's what
thick
I was
bars,
gonna suggest.
That might look cool too.
Use the
Um,
bars, like one on each the four sides of the pictures. You have four different colors and use the colors to frame the pictures.
well, that's getting difficult because then you're talking about animating a lot of
Oh
little
yeah,
pieces
no.
together.
Never mind.
Um, and you're still going to be relatively thin if you're not careful. I mean, it might take her a lot more time and go for it, Suzanne. You're doing all kinds of work. So if you want to try out a lot of things, that's great. What I'm trying to say is that your
No,
yellow and
he's like,
your
no.
yellow and your green are not
Right.
showing up, or your blue, whatever color we're
Yeah,
calling
well,
that,
we can play
aqua.
with that. We
They're
can play
not,
with that.
yeah. So you can put them in the center. You can duplicate it at the top and have it be a header and a footer, which which is done all the time. Um, you could even do them all the way across the entire thing. Just anything that makes it more. If as a designer you want them to show up more. But I think you probably do, and I think you can use them a little bit more than having them relegated to the tiny section at the bottom.
We'll experiment.
Hmm. Um, the Yeah, I think that everywhere you've got separation and like the F and the amylase is separated, so when it animates, the F and the amylase kind of get apart. I think you need to animate every word as one unit so that it stays together.
Hmm.
And
This is working nicely. The way you knock them all out one at a time. You've got some issues here still with this particular color palette.
it,
The bouncing and this is all fun. I think you might want to kind of emphasize the fun a little bit more. Like I think you say, okay, it's engaged or engaging might be better. Fulfilling is great. And then happy. And I think because you've got all this bouncing going on and you're kind of, the music's a little bit jaunty and very comfortable feeling, you might want to emphasize happy more than just making it engaging, fulfilling. I think happy is your focus. That's what you're trying to drive home, that it's not just a charity for downtrodden and it's a sort of a negative experience kind of thing. Above all, it's happy. Everybody you're showing us is happy. because you've got all these animations that are kind of quirky and fun, you're emphasizing happy. So I think when happy comes up, you might want to emphasize it more. Have it flash, have it be bigger, have it change colors, have it fill the whole screen. Any
You know,
any of those things. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, in draft five at the 24th second, I really like what you did with the color palette. It's kind of what we had discussed before, as far as different options. Um, but the color palette's much more easy to take in, and you've got the little kid sitting there with blowing bubbles, and each color is essentially representing a bubble. There it is. Oh,
Um, I am so glad to hear you say that because I was afraid I'd have to find it, and I'm glad you found it for me. Absolutely. It doesn't, it's not lined up. It's got a nice composition. It's not perfect. It's got the kid blowing bubbles, and then everything's off to the side. Jeff's right. This is a more compelling, more engaging, and happier feeling color palette
and
than what
maybe
you
even
have in the
slow
others.
down the animation a little bit because
Mm,
whenever it's paused just right here, it just looks good.
mhm.
And it
Well, there's
really
there's
gets
a
you
little
going.
bit of spacing issues with the bubbles. They're kind of in different. Let's see if we can. These two are kind of lined up, but then the lining is sort of awkward here, and I think maybe
Yet still, I mean
maybe these need to be moved more in line or something. Um, I don't know. I think the animation's a nice speed. Frankly, it's not too bad, and you could probably lose RGB slash CMYK and just put RGB over these and CMYK over these. Makes it more consistent and clear. You might want to draw a line under each of them so that here's RGB, here are the colors, here's CMYK, here are the colors. So, or just make RGB and CMYK larger, something in terms of hierarchy that indicates what's there. But this is a more engaging color palette, and from the moment I saw this one earlier, I thought it was great. So
Oh, okay, so the animation's not too much on this one, or it is?
no, no, I mean you're emphasizing happy. You're trying to go with that, and you know, here we're not doing the different colored first letters, and so that's already better or was better. The last comment I want to make about this, because I don't want to take up too much time on just on the one piece, um, unless somebody else has another point they want to make, is that the ball at the end, kind of bouncing off the roof, this is too slow. You want to keep that same bouncy rhythm going on, and this ball is kind of slowly flying in, and then it sort of rolls and disappears. It's not doing the same. It doesn't have the same starring role in that particular shot that others do. I think if you're going to incorporate it, you still want people to focus on these pictures down here. Then if you're going to incorporate the ball, you need to have it kind of bounce in and bounce out as like, this is my last fun wee, and I'm out of here.
Okay.
Any thoughts on that? Anybody got anything else to say?
I would
Nope.
agree. Yeah, I was just checking to make sure it wasn't already edited, but yeah, it looks like yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the music needs to continue with it as well, which I'm sure you are probably aware.
Hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Um, Excellent work, Suzanne, to keep iterating. You understand the importance of iterating. And I'll go ahead and say it one more time. It's something that everybody in the program needs to know all the way through is that your first pass at something is not perfect. Your second pass isn't perfect. Your third pass isn't perfect. And I know that you're making tweaks all the time and you can come to critiques, and sometimes it can feel like the only thing you are getting is negative feedback. It's because, it's not that your work is bad. It's not that you're not improving. With every opportunity you are improving. It's just that we have to point out what's not showing right so that you can make those improvements and changes and move forward. So, um, That being said, always be looking for how you can help people improve. Critiques where I like it or I love it or that's great, those aren't helpful. We don't know why you like it. We don't know what's great about it. We don't know if it's appropriate. So be careful with those comments. Did I miss anybody down here? Just got duplicates. Anna's piece. Any comments for Anna?
I'm happy to see that she figured out how to resize the images.
Mm-hmm.
They were tiny.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does she do from here?
No.
You can't see it, I guess, can you, Steve?
Well, I'm looking at it, what you're playing,
Okay.
but I can't. My computer, my desktop that I would normally run side by side with this is offline at the moment.
Okay.
I noticed a few things I need to change. I wanted to get those pictures coming up at the same speed, one right after the other. The third one's
Okay.
kind of lagging. This transition when this text comes in is kind of slow, as is the picture coming up when I scale it up.
Mm-hmm.
I think I faded out a little too quick at the end with the music. And obviously there's a lot of stuff I need to fix.
Okay, it's not horrible. It's vast improvement and all that. But let's talk a minute about font. Let's see, Jeff, can you talk
Okay.
about font at all? What about her
No.
typography? Do you have any
Well,
comments?
that's a
Don't like
designer
it.
choice, but it's round.
Okay,
Ah,
well, which one is round?
Well, the N.
Okay.
The
Oh, you're right.
neometric.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm.
Do you think since I'm going with the round on that, I need, something else more rounded for my second choice of fonts? Do you think they're too opposite from each other?
Well, let me ask you. You've shown us two fonts that are
Yeah.
to be used: Neometric
And Futura.
and Futura. Well, what
Uh-huh.
is this font up on screen? Charged by the
That's
Sun.
Futura.
Oh no, that's not Futura.
Oh, did I screw up?
You
Did I
have
make it
chosen
bold?
my favorite font in the entire world, and I'm telling you that's not
Drum roll.
Futura.
Oh, what is it? What is it then?
Well, I'll tell you this. So, if it is Futura, there
Uh-huh.
is the possibility that there's some sort of, excuse the term, bastardized version out there for
Uh-huh.
whatever program is being used, and
Okay.
it
Yeah.
might be called, Futura with a K or
Fake
something. I
Futura.
don't know.
Right, right. Okay,
um,
I'll look into that.
but let's look at this for a second. Um, let's see.
Mm. Oh, yeah. Looks a lot different.
There's a couple of identifying parts to Futura.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot in any font, but in particular, anything with a point has a point. It's pointy. If you look at the top of the A in charged and look at the A here,
Yeah, I see.
right here, pointy. O's and G's are everything. C's, everything is very symmetrical in
Mm-hmm.
terms of
Very
the
round.
sphere is very round.
Uh-huh.
These are all squished.
Yeah, I'll fix that. I don't know what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and this goes for everybody, if you're going to say these are the fonts I'm using, then those are the fonts that you should use.
But that's
Um,
Futura right there, right?
this is Futura. See that point?
Okay, so I just
Snap.
screwed up. Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Every point on the top of any of the Futura letter forms is going to look like it's higher than the rest of the letter forms. Like if you
I
look
see
at a
that. Okay.
W, the point's always going to look like it's sticking up above the side legs there. Whatever that
Okay.
term is for legs, arms on Futura. So I have a
Uh,
typographic expert over here next to me, but she's got her headphones on. Um, okay, so you start off with
and I just
Neomet.
added the outer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I, I just added the outer glow to the geometric, kind of to go along with the theme of like the sun shining, the solar charging, kind of futuristic-ish stuff. So I
They're
didn't
both
add it to the
working.
Futura.
They're both
Okay,
working, but you need
good.
what the the big comment I want to make about your typography is that it needs to be more
Yes.
cohesive. It needs to be integrated with the rest of your work.
Okay.
You started with neometric,
Mhm.
and here's neometric
Right.
with this image. And then there's this, but we
Is that not
don't count it as much. That's that other
okay?
thing that's going to be fixed.
Right.
And then you've got these images,
Mhm.
and then here's neometric again with Futura. That makes sense.
Mhm.
And then this is not
Well,
They're looking nice.
Futura, so you think it would be used as Futura.
yes.
But we lose neometric, essentially, is what I'm saying. And there was a reason you used neometric. And so I think you might want to balance your fonts, determine when you're going to use them. When will you use
Okay.
neometric as opposed to Futura?
Well, I wanted to use that for headlines.
Which one for
Headers,
headlines?
neometric, and then use Futura as body copy, things
Okay,
like
but
that.
guess
So,
what?
what?
You didn't use Futura here.
Yeah. Dang.
If
Okay.
if you wanted to do sort of a headline feel in neometric and then you were sort of getting into body copy, then you would use Futura here.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the point is that throughout this, you want to balance your fonts a little bit and show us what it's like. When will you use Futura versus neometric? And then, don't start off with one and finish with the other. Kind
I
of
see. Okay.
get them together, balance them so that that consistency runs through. And there's a certain sense with the technology in neometric that this is techno futuristic and whatnot. And we kind of start off that way. And this first image is a really great combination. The gal jumping, and it's sort of an organic atmosphere, but then we've got neometric up here, which is bringing that futuristic
Oh,
feel.
yeah. So maybe I should do Futura on that one since it's sort of
Uh,
more.
well,
Sorry, I'm
but
thinking
it's
out
work.
loud.
It's working well with
Okay.
neometric. But what I was going to say was, if you get down here to these images,
Uh-huh.
it's completely lost. And what's really lost is their use of the phones is so tiny. And it's certainly
Okay.
not the focus of these images. It'll take a
Okay.
couple of times before you realize that these folks are using phones.
Okay.
You know, I mean, not
So
not
do you
for nothing,
suggest
but that
different
could be a
images?
compass.
Right.
And then
So
this is completely, blocked out by the sun, and then that is so tiny on the side there that the
okay.
idea of the phone and the futuristic is completely taken out. Now, what would help
Uh-huh.
that is to have some of your typography over that, or
Okay.
yeah, to sort of make it feel more like a campaign, and to bring that phone back into it.
Okay.
Can I
So do you
suggest
suggest?
something?
Yes,
I
please.
I mean, and you don't have to do this, but I'm just
Right,
thinking if you
suggestions,
wanted to
good.
keep those
Love it. Keep 'em
images
coming. Yeah.
and that phone that you have at the beginning, which is really strong, maybe
Mhm.
you can, if you can get a image of a small phone and maybe have it enlarge a little bit, just animate it, have it enlarge just a little bit off the picture, just to let you know that that's what's in their hand, maybe.
I like that, and
Um,
add something else to that. Maybe not the sizing exactly, but add something to that. What's going on up here with this first one? What stands out about that phone? Anybody jump in here?
The green.
the
Yes.
green to me,
Green.
it
The
natural.
green.
The
Looks
color.
green.
Yeah.
How could you
Oh yeah.
animate? What could you animate in these pictures later that would be subtle but appropriate?
I don't know because I don't want to put like the phone just floating through there or anything.
Well,
So I
you
guess I
don't
could
want
find a
to.
few different.
Okay. Anybody come up with
Like
something?
I
Let's hear
can't. I
something
don't.
based on what I just said. What we just pointed out about the first phone. What we recognized about it.
Put like a green glow.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
with
I
Have
see where you're coming
have the
from.
thing briefly glow green and catch your attention and draw your eye to the fact that they're holding the phone
Ah.
Like a beacon.
And maybe you
like a
can even
beacon.
use the Futura and
Yes.
say green, let that flash with it to really
Yeah.
just to bring the image into the
If
campaign.
what says green? Sorry.
Well,
So you have,
anything. I mean, I
yeah,
think she's saying that you added, you had some text on one image up there. Well, let's see some text on the
Uh-huh.
other images, or maybe one of them. Just bring in your text and let's see it a little bit.
Okay.
See
I can
what
do that.
Futura would look like on some imagery as well, possibly.
Okay,
Or
great.
whenever you're going to use Futura, use it in the way you would use it, that kind of thing.
Well, I feel like I kind of struggle with like what kind of text to put on there because I don't want to make it a commercial as you suggested. I mean, and I've already like I don't know, I've used my directive words. I don't know. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I guess like features of the phone. I guess I could just put up battery life of blankety blank hour or something like that maybe.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, cool.
maybe something that applies to the image. Like you said, battery life, or I don't
Hmm.
know, coverage in
Okay.
strange areas or something,
Right.
or
Yeah.
remote areas, remote coverage
Yeah.
or
Right.
something.
Yeah. There we go. Okay.
Um, Martin, can you talk to me about these textures?
I think she did a nice job filling up the entire screen with her textures. This way
Yeah.
Okay.
you have absolutely no doubt about what is going on right there. So
Okay, so
that's
there's a
what
quick and clear communication about those textures. Now, tell me, are those textures appropriate to her campaign?
they are appropriate to her campaign. Maybe we can try to squeeze them in throughout the rest of this mood board. Maybe they could be, you know, a thin strip of wood towards the bottom of the screen, or maybe we can tie those textures in other places. But I
Um,
believe that the textures are somewhat appropriate.
what do the textures have to do with the phone and the technology and the futuristic feel?
Well, that's
Sure.
the thing. The green element and being in touch with nature and everything, I think that definitely ties in with the textures. Maybe the futuristic portion is tied in with that bottom right hand texture there, but
Maybe.
that's about a. I think that's the
Maybe.
closest connection
Yeah,
that
I
I
know.
can do.
I mean, no, I was thinking I do want to go with like the eco-friendly feel, which I wanted to pick, kind of organic textures and things like that. But, and I thought the color palette that I had would look good on top of those textures and colors. So I don't know.
Well,
Down for
what are your
suggestions.
directive words?
Innovative, adventurous, and economical.
Okay, now how do those textures fit those three words?
Oh man, you got me.
Well, I see a bamboo
I guess they
floor.
don't.
Well,
Bamboo is
Those are
economical.
you
expensive.
you
Oh,
are
they're cheap.
trying to combine a little eco-friendly feel with the
Yeah.
futuristic feel. I mean, you're showing the outdoors, because you want, the whole lifestyle, the whole the adventurous side is what the outdoors are about, not so much eco-friendly. But then you bring
Yeah.
this very organic and earthy sort of texture palette in here all by itself.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think Suzanne just mentioned like the bamboo, like if it were a bamboo floor, that's a very contemporary kind of flooring to be used. That's a very contemporary texture, and she's right. Now,
Okay.
um, but the cracked earth or the thick bark,
Uh-huh.
there's no marriage of technology here with the organic is basically the problem,
I see
because
what you're saying. Okay.
a glow, a futuristic glow, kind of like you use at the beginning here,
Mm-hmm.
and the background texture that you have for that very first shot, that's a texture, but you don't have that
Yeah.
included
Right.
in that.
Okay.
So I think you probably need to, and look here, this gradient is a texture. That's essentially a metallic shine,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So you need to possibly look at incorporating a little bit more of the technological feel or the
Okay.
yeah,
So is it
with
okay,
that.
to have some textures that are more organic and then some other textures that
Well,
are
I think
more
so because all of your
kind of
images are showing
technological?
outdoor stuff.
Right.
But I
Okay.
don't, so like maybe bamboo flooring is kind of contemporary and
Mm-hmm.
forward thinking
So
and
it
that
needs to
kind
be
of deal.
organic and contemporary,
Yeah, I
or
think
a mix
so.
of the two.
Yeah.
Can I suggest something?
Yes, please.
Um,
Ma'am.
the phone itself more than likely has, I'm guessing, that they have covers that go with these phones that may have organic looks to them. Um, Maybe that can be where your textures or that organic look is coming from. Like
Right.
maybe they have textures that look like bamboo or look like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, grass. I don't know what they have
Okay.
out
Yeah.
there, but I've seen a lot of covers that look organic. And maybe that can be something that would be like an accessory of the phone. And so that's where you get, like the
Excellent,
guys that are
Suzanne.
climbing the
Excellent.
mountain, they might have something metallic, or the girl in the grass, she might have something that looks as like a more of a grassy scene type cover, and so then that can be where it could be explanation design wise of where those textures are coming from, and maybe there's something that looks like bamboo floor and the wood grain or whatever else those other
Hmm.
things were
Yes.
there. So
Okay, yeah, that's a great idea.
still
This one is
use
actually
them,
a
but
prototype. So
Okay.
sorry.
Yes, good stuff
Okay,
that
how do you guys
that
feel about the
Suzanne was
color
saying.
palette? Is the beige and the yellow too close?
Yes.
Okay, damn. All right, I'll fix
I thought they were the same color.
it. I thought so. I just
You
wanted to
shot
get some
yourself in the
second
foot
opinion.
there.
I
Uh,
know. Damn. All right.
How does
Well, I
everybody
mean,
feel about black not having a bubble around it?
should I? Um, yeah.
Should it?
the
Oh
background black. All right.
Yeah,
no,
since the
Well, it
no,
background
the
doesn't.
was
It,
black.
black,
it doesn't have room for a bubble anyway.
I could make room.
Oh, in other words, she's just using the black negative space as the
Correct.
bubble, basically.
Right.
It's like,
Correct.
okay, these are my colors,
Yeah.
and everything else is black, so here's the designation.
Right.
Or it's black on black, and you just can't see it.
Right.
Yeah. But let's be honest, Anna. You didn't use a bubble around that because there's no room for it. Right.
Yeah, you're
Right.
right.
Okay.
It would have overlaid the other
Yeah.
colors.
I could totally bring up the yellow and the blue and make a black bubble right underneath there and put a glow on it or change the background color or something.
Okay.
I'm
Let's
forward with
talk
You
that.
about
had
your
it
bubble.
saved out as, if you had it saved out
I
as
think it's a
a
cloud.
Cloud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going with outdoor theme? No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't read it as a cloud. I read it as a
Oh,
shape. Anybody
okay.
else? I mean, did it come across immediately as a cloud? It's okay if it does to some people and not to others, but
No.
there's
Okay.
are
Well, I
these
kind of did. I thought it was
did you
cloud,
make
you
but I
thought
mean,
the
cloud?
yeah, but you have outdoor scenes, so I mean, it's
Hmm.
okay.
What about
But
the
it.
leaf shape? I was thinking about that too.
Ooh.
The leaf shape that like Jeff used on his.
Yeah, nice
You guys
shape.
filled that in? Okay, cool.
Well, I think
That
it's
was my second
this.
choice.
This could be popcorn, maybe. It's on the black background. None of them are white.
Okay.
Um,
True.
yeah.
Could be flowers.
And
Yeah, yeah, it's all
what's
too
the
small.
motivation for having the RGB CMYK already there and then having these things stop over them? What kind of motion is that that's motivated?
I just thought I had it a different way on my first draft, but I just thought I guess my timing's just off. I wanted them to kind of fade in and show up right when the clouds get into place. So that's just I guess a timing issue.
Well, there's an awkward period, for a viewer to have to be looking at something and going, oh,
That's fair.
I'm reading. Oh, it looks like RGB CMYK numbers. Oh, wait, now there are colors coming across, and now different colors are crossing, and you know that you're going to have to wait for it to freeze or do something,
I
and
see.
so it's just sort of taking focus away, and it's distracting. It impedes going back to Jeff's piece, the smoothness of the
Right.
piece.
Okay. I see that, definitely.
It's a little staccato. The fact that it's static the way it is and then moving as all one piece is already
Yeah.
sort of uh, emphasizing the sort of cartoonish or two-dimensional nature of it, and the fact that
Hmm.
it's got these curves that are slightly whimsical and almost look like thought bubbles or could be clouds, and the
Hmm.
colors it takes us away from the futuristic and outdoor feel, and it brings us into sort of a cartoon world.
Okay. So something a little bit more realistic,
I think
shape
you're
wise.
on track to making this thematically better all the way through, talking about your fonts and your textures and whatnot. So I think that you'll be able to come up with a better solution that's more in keeping and more appropriate to your campaign for your color palette.
Okay. I'll work
Yeah.
on it. Yep.
Any other comments for Anna or from Anna?
I just think it's really nice.
Yeah,
I like where you're going with it.
organization. Your organization on it's
one is
great. You're sort of just showing us each of the things along the way. So yeah, you're on
Cool.
track.
Thank God. This is my first time ever using After Effects, and I've watched all the
Yeah, me
tutorials, and
too.
it's just,
Hmm.
thanks.
Yeah, there's
Better
there's
than
a
I thought.
big there's a big I don't know if it's a discrepancy exactly, but there's a dichotomy of things you have to learn. If you have to learn software, that's one thing, and you have to be technical. But then you also have to ultimately be aware of things like theme and flow and rhythm. And
Right.
so you might technically execute something great, but the overall feel is not still not quite working. So there's
Sure.
definitely learning curves involved with all this, but that's why we're all here at school, right?
Cool. Right. Exactly.
Awesome. Who has words for Martin?
I
I love
like the
it.
fact
I'm
that
just
he
kidding.
I love
brought.
it too.
I like the fact that he brought Magnavox Thrive to the beginning and
And the
Hmm.
tagline?
desaturated.
Yes,
Yeah,
and the tagline.
desaturated his beginning images as well as changed the music up.
If I
Hmm.
remember correctly, I think the music cut off a little bit before the end, though.
Okay.
Is that on the second draft or the first? I forget which one I watched. It sounded like it cut off a little early, as does mine. So,
I think it's the image drops before the music is done.
okay,
I'm watching
there
it.
it is. Okay. It may have been my slow computer, too.
You've got some overlapping things, Martin, that might be better separated.
Okay.
Does anybody have any comments on that? Can everybody see what I'm talking about?
Well, just the one where I think I've already mentioned it to him in a comment, was just where the transforming this part and the next image, it kind of pop. I don't know. It's like
There's a
pops a
glitch in the
little bit.
video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right there.
And after this conversation, I definitely want to change the font of the CMYK and RGB to be consistent with the font that I'm choosing.
Hmm.
So that I'm not using two different fonts since I just want to stick with one font. So I'm going to have to redo this section right here.
Who's got thoughts about this shot? Somebody has to.
I like the color palette, but I'm kind of lost. I mean, I get that you're using cable as your font, and that's your color palette, but me personally, I'd put it in two different frames or two different sets of shots because you're asking the viewer to absorb a lot of information all at once in a very short period of time.
Jeff, what do you think of
That
that?
Well, the first time, I guess I'd suggest the exact same thing is lifting the typeface and putting that on a separate font. I mean, sorry, a separate font. Where am I? So
I do it too.
you've got typeface and you've got your color palette,
Yeah.
and it's less to. I mean, it's on top of that, if it did work as a communication, like if they worked together on one frame, it still would need something to stand out from.
Yeah,
But
you're serving two masters. It's the color palette. Oh wait, there's color palette. Oh,
right,
typography.
Information
Um,
overload.
yeah, and then and then the font itself across all of these colors, it just you want to read it. We know it's a sample, and in a way, it kind of shows how the typography works across all colored backgrounds, but it's too much to look at, and they're not separated. You know, so we'll get that new feel when you change your color specs to this font down here. We'll get that sense of how they work. So okay, so we've said it that there sort of probably needs to be two things there, and yeah, there's some sort of poor dissolves or fades here. This one, you've got uh, for some reason you're zooming in on the water, but you don't
Mm-hmm.
quite zoom in on it. It's sort of like, well, why did you choose right there to do it? And then it's fading out at the same time that you start to zoom in on it, and then it's still there. You can still see the remnants of the dissolve from the other image, and Empower is halfway down the screen. So you just kind of need to give these images time to disappear. Have the dissolve work faster. Just make the dissolve happen over the course of a number of frames instead of over the course of seconds.
Okay.
actually, with what he did, where he's zooming in, I mean, the way I see it as you're seeing the dirty water, and then he's zooming in on the clear water, which emphasizes that this is Magnavox Thrive. The whole point
essentially.
is, working towards clean water, and then it's dissolving to a picture where a child is drinking clean water. I mean,
Okay,
as
let me take that comment and give it to Suzanne and ask Suzanne, is he zooming in on the clean water?
Yeah, and I kind of agree that it needs to be consistent throughout because what you're really showing is what Thrive is all about is going from that, which is really important to see where it came from, as well as where it is going. Like that whole thing there is important to me because I want to see that, wow, what a big change Thrive made. Look at that water. But then when you kind of focus right in on the clear, to me it kind of takes away that where did it come from.
Well, let's
At
think.
least in my opinion.
Well, it's a good idea to do that, or it could be a good idea to do that, but is he doing that? Is he zooming in and focusing on clear water?
No.
No, because the next image I think comes in a little too quickly. So your focus is
Yeah,
now like,
that's
oh, what's
true.
coming up? And then you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
there it
dang,
is
where'd the water
coming
go?
through.
Yeah,
You're going
before
It's
we
too.
just a
have a
timing issue, I
chance,
feel like.
we're still looking at dirty water all the way up to here essentially, and this kid's eyes are taking our attention completely away from this. Except that we know that it's still there, but you're not focusing on the clean water. It's just sort of a slow dissolve. And to that end, we have all this dirty and this bad up at the front here, but then there's clean water. And then we go to dirty water again. So if we're going to use these cups of water as a transition from dirty to clean, then the image before it needs to not be clean and refreshing, and we need to go from this glass into that image of the splash of water. Do you see my point?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see your point.
And you might even want to reverse that image so that the splash is more on this side because you could even conceivably um, you could allow that dissolve to be longer if you had the splash on this side and at some point you zoom in and pan quick enough so that you've got the clean water over here fading out and then this one is fading in on this side. So they could sort of simultaneously still be on screen at the same time and not be as cacophonous as this is because you have too much going on in this
Right.
image back here for these two images to work together during the
Right.
dissolve.
That
Big
makes sense.
important thing to think of when people don't think typically that you just think I'm going to dissolve from this image into that image, but there are images that work well as dissolves and there are images that don't work well as dissolves depending on how much time you're working with that. So you have to think of what you're dissolving from and what you're dissolving into, and sometimes there's just too much compositional cacophony going on that cause it to not be a particularly good dissolve. By the same token, I think you've got Empower moving onto the screen immediately, but you're still doing these other things, and you almost don't have enough time for Empower to rest with that image. We don't, we have to read it really quickly. So you just have some timing issues there, but it's tighter than it was before. I'll certainly say that. And this smile and this whole thing, this is a great image to end on. It shows what Thrive can do. And it's the opposite of the types of images you saw at the beginning. This is
Hmm.
communicating very clearly, very quickly, providing solutions for clean water. We see the need here. This is very heartbreaking. And then from there, we've said everything else. So you're on the right track as well.
Okay.
Any other comments for Martin or from Martin?
Audio transition, if it could be like a little bit longer, um, I mean, even if it's another second, um, it's a little abrupt, but it's certainly refreshing when it comes up.
You mean the beginning?
Yeah.
from the sad to happy music. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I
Oh,
mean, even if they're crossing over,
where does the
Okay.
transition happen, Jeff?
it's right around. And this is one of the points you guys are talking about editing. So, right around the water drop.
Mm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, let's see.
Almost like it's eating the bad music, if that makes sense. I,
Well, yeah.
or curing the.
Well, I tell you what, Martin, what you probably should do is get your video locked down and then we'll do the timing of the music. How's that?
Okay.
The
Just
music
wherever it
change.
is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and frankly, the music that comes up right there, that chord, the second chord is probably more introductory sounding than that first one. Right there, the one around 15 or 16 seconds. 15. If you give enough silence at the end of the despair imagery and give it a little bit of silence and then bring in that second sound, it's going to sound more like here's a time for change and
Okay.
thank you, Thrive, for helping us. We all need clean water. Looks like we've lost Suzanne, at least
I'm
visually.
here. I'm
She's
here.
there. She's changing clothes or something. So she's being discreet. Okay. Um,
I had I know, yeah, it's under all that text. I have one up there too. I have altered mine based on comments,
mhm.
but I can't upload it until I have real internet service.
Okay. Do you want to
So
talk to us
tomorrow.
about that then? What did you change?
I fixed the spelling error in typography.
Okay.
Um, I fixed some artifact in my very last image. I'm working on the transitions here at the beginning. There's some fades that are all messed up and wrong. And I also changed my color palette, and it's not Onkyo, it's actually Anki. And I got rid of the imagery on my color palette because that is not design. That's basically just making it looking pretty, and it's unnecessary.
Mhm.
So, and then here at the end, yeah, on that last image, there was a white line going down. That's gone. And those images of the environment where it says fun loving, environmentally conscious, there's no fade. They just like bang, they're there. And then the next one's there. So I'm transitioning them, cross-fading them in and out. So, and I'm gonna drop it by another second, so it is at 45 seconds instead of
Okay.
46.
And here's a general note for everybody. Let's give 3 seconds of black. Let's let's have your final image be still for 1, 2, and then start to fade out and give 3 seconds of fade so that it has a feel of a complete ending. And
Oh,
I'm
okay.
and since we
I
didn't
did.
start with that, I'm going to say you can do that on top of your 45 seconds. So you can have 45 seconds and then you can have the extra 3 seconds to fade out.
What about the beginning?
Also, I'm working on, if you see
Yeah,
along
beginning too.
the left.
We're just asking for three
Okay.
more.
Yeah.
What?
Four
What do you want? What do
minutes.
you want to do at
Right.
the beginning, Jeff?
Well, if we're gonna have three at the end to fade out,
Yeah,
I think maybe we should have three at the beginning to fade out.
I think that's lovely. I think that's very good thinking. I think it's symmetrical thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and allow that as well. Everybody should have a 3 second fade in.
Cool.
Nice.
Now, it doesn't mean that you have to actually fade into something for a full 3 seconds. It can just be, black and sort of quickly come up. It doesn't have to take the full 3 seconds, but
Can I ask a question?
yes.
And
Can the mute? Uh, can the picture be the fade out? For example, with my music, I tried to end it just a little bit before the end of the graphic so that you just kind of get a image visual as opposed to hearing music at that very end.
Uh-huh, yes.
Or is that okay, or do I need to stretch the music all the way to fade out at the end of
No,
the
you
clip to be
don't.
enough?
You can fade out the music sooner, but you don't want to fade it out so soon that you still have action happening. It needs to feel like an ending.
Mhm.
I know that's a really odd thing to say, but
You have Bugs Bunny out, say bleep bleep bleep. That's all, folks.
yep,
No,
I don't think that's a good idea unless it's appropriate for your campaign,
yeah, I
but I
don't
don't
think
think it
it'd work for
is.
mine.
All right. Is- I'll tell you what, you try to make it feel like an ending, Suzanne, and then we'll see.
Okay.
Um, and everybody
Because
can
my
chime in on
little
that.
pictures blink right up till the end.
Yeah, and
And
that and
that's
that's
kind of the
that's part of
point.
what you need to.
Yeah.
You can either fade out with them blinking, maybe slowly or
Yeah.
something, or you can freeze. And well, what you're going to do once you get your logo, you're going to have an animated logo. And Jeff's a little bit ahead of the game on this, but we'll see what happens next month. Um, you're going to create an animated logo. You're going to have to create something for video where your logo, you're going to have to create a logo and then animate it as well. And you will add your animated logo to this dynamic mood board. Okay, so your timing will change just by adding that. So you'll have a new ending come next month. Um, but for our purposes now, I want you to get a sense of timing and a sense of a completeness. So you want this to fade out and have those nice clean dark seconds at the end,
That's
little
going to
static
be
feel. Okay.
with that's going to be with the existing time we have, correct? Added to, so
Yeah,
we're not we're
added
not
to.
we're
You're
not
not
going to
going to
have
have
to
to
subtract.
re-edit. No,
Okay.
you're not going to have to re-edit. Good question. I want to talk a little bit about the typography here. Who's got comments on that typography?
I
I
can't
can't.
read it.
Oh, yeah, I can't
What?
read it. I kind of commented on that earlier. It's
Yeah,
it's just that in that mountain, I guess that's a mountain in the background. It's just a
right?
little difficult
Well,
to
you got a
read.
mountain and trees,
It's just a
and
little difficult to read
nature
that.
you might be able to read, but lover at the bottom kind of blends in with the
Yeah.
shadows of the trees.
Yeah, you can read
I,
nature, but yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I need to raise it up and reposition it,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
and
there's
Quick and
one
clear.
more. I
possibly
don't know
make
if
it
it was
larger.
before this one or maybe after. There was one more that was a little
My
just.
my question is the image that you're on right now, where it says environmentally conscious, is that okay design with the text overlapping the image?
Well, that's what do you guys say? What's going on with this? Is
I don't
it
Talking
know.
to the
I can't read
designer.
that one either real well, so I.
well,
Well,
mostly because your font choice here is sort of out of the realm of regular reading. It's all caps and it's all kind of funky shaped letters, and the
yeah,
kerning is
it's
such that they all blend in.
that's the font I intend to use for Insight, Insight
Okay.
X,
Yeah.
Stream Hybrid, and that block of wording,
Mm-hmm.
it's readable. But maybe I should use one of my other font choices because there's three different fonts, and Razor is actually a much clearer, readable font than
Yeah, I can read that
the
Yeah.
well.
Right. And
Yeah, I think that
Helvetica
one.
for body
and then
copy.
the
So
Helvetica is
try,
body
yes,
copy.
exactly. So try the other fonts that are less stylized. Stylized fonts can always be difficult. And
Okay.
as we've just seen, sometimes they can work really well for a logo for particular letters in a particular place, but sometimes they don't work real well for, big things you have to read. I mean, even adventures is kind of difficult.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
I think we,
yeah. I have noticed that myself, and I'm the one that
right. And then
I'm
fun
the
loving, I think, is where Suzanne was going to mention that it's a little dark. There's not enough contrast to read that. and fun loving.
Yeah,
Um,
it is with the.
yeah.
I think it's actually with that image, it's a matter of color. Even if I use black font, no matter what font I use against the dark image, it's not going to work. I'm going to have to change the color of the font or
Well,
put an
or
outer note.
in something like that fun loving, you've got enough room on that photo that you can adjust the color, the saturation of that green in the
Yeah.
background. You can do sort of a real subtle stamp that changes the color and kind of ends up giving you a lighter, more contrast area to put fun loving.
Well, I can just go into the levels. I did all
Yeah.
the whole piece is not done in After Effects. It's done in Photoshop.
Uh-huh.
So I'm using the motion. I'm very familiar or well read with Photoshop.
Hmm.
So I can go in and adjust the levels or saturations or anything of any of these images right there on the timeline.
Sure. Okay, well then you're aware of that.
Play with
Let's get
that.
back to the image on the screen right here, and let's have some folks talk about environmentally conscious running across the image.
I
Positive, negative, in between. What do y'all
I
think?
think it I think it might look better on the in the bottom centered kind of, in the bottom curve of the oval. Then it would basically just cover her jacket, and not her neck.
Well, the area that
Might be a suggestion.
good point, and I let's see if we're on the same page. The area that makes it
Okay.
particularly problematic is when it crosses too many tangents. There's a visual tangent right
Mm,
here with we start to get wrinkles, we start to get a buckle. We've got the gradient, or the not the gradient, the texture in her the cowl neck here, and there's a little bit right here as well because the black of her hair sort of touches into the T. So you get those tangent. If this was if this was down where it just fell right into this area, it wouldn't be as bad.
Okay.
But it's a big word. Um,
Yeah,
you
I
might have
didn't.
more. You might have more room up here. What about using eco-friendly in with this
I
picture
was
at the
just going
same
to say
time?
that.
Are you serving too many masters here?
Well, I wanted to give it basically a feel that the people within the picture are environmentally conscious.
Okay.
So,
Do
um,
you need eco-friendly over there to do that?
no, I don't actually.
It's sort of it's repeating information.
Yeah,
You can have
because
eco-friendly or you can have environmentally
true.
conscious. And it's better to show your design work by putting, that on there because you did not create eco-friendly image, correct?
no, no,
Right.
no, not at.
So don't use that. It's not in your font. You didn't create it. Take it out.
Well,
You
and
might
then
you might want to
I
add
can
something
get
that
rid
makes
of
the
that.
image look a little more eco-friendly. You might want to go into
Right.
Photoshop and add some rays and add some grass somehow. That's
Yeah, I
fine.
can get rid of the background. Literally, just extract the people off that background and make it look like it was a photo that was taken in the great wild outdoors somewhere, grassland,
Well,
mountains.
I think that it works with the background you have, without putting them in the great outdoors. I think
Well,
there's something very clean and eco-friendly feeling about this bright white, little bits of blues and green. It almost looks like they're standing outside their home that is very contemporary and eco-friendly, although it's probably not a home, but it sort of has an architectural feel. So you get the sense that this is an upwardly mobile couple who is environmentally conscious and lives in a Jetson's
yeah,
house that's environmentally conscious or something.
it's.
So,
I think it's an office building. It fades out
yeah.
as from the angle of the picture. The focus was on them, and the background fades.
Well, let's put the focus back on them a little bit more and take
I'll
eco-friendly
get rid
out.
of
And
that.
you can add something if you feel you need to, like the rays or maybe some grass at the bottom that might help it. You may need it, you may not need it.
Okay, I shall fix that as soon as we're done here. And then, like
Um,
I said, tomorrow evening, I'll or tomorrow afternoon I'll post up a rework of this.
Okay, and we have one little issue right at the beginning. What's going? Can somebody point out what's wrong with this?
Looks like a
All
piece
the
of the gear is like chopped off there in the middle.
Yep. What's
Little
your motivation for that?
the gear is chopped off. What? Oh, where it
yeah, that
doesn't
little thing.
go across? There was
Yeah.
no motivation from that. I gotta fix it and run it, make it look like it's running off into the distance or to the top of the frame.
Or just sort of complete the circle. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all you need.
whatever you
just
plan to do there.
right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what I plan to do is change the image almost entirely. What it's supposed to be, and I don't know if you see it this way, it's a gearhead. It's a literal, honest to God gearhead. Shows innovation. There's
Uh-huh.
little bubbles that lead up. I don't
Mm.
know if you've ever seen it where, like in some cartoons and other things, the guy has an idea and you see the big bubble up and up above his head.
Sure.
And that's what this whole thing represents. But I have another image where I actually have all of that above Mr. Gearhead.
It's not
And I gotta,
communicating that way because you're not animating it as such. It's
right.
difficult to see those bubbles. What we're focusing
Yeah,
on is the animation, the fact that this is rising up, the bubbles don't rise up, the bubbles are there at the same time. So, we don't know that this person thinks there's not enough of a connection with these coming out of his head as being thought
right.
bubbles. And then it doesn't
It
animate so that
doesn't
the thought
connect.
bubbles become large and become that big oval.
Right. And I have an image that will actually, I guess, explain that more in an animation to replace that. I'm
Okay.
going to take that eco friendly logo completely out
Okay.
because the fade is not working.
Okay. Overall, good advancements. Like everybody else, you're on track, and I have to say that the last two go-tos have been very helpful all the way around. I think, and the participation is certainly stronger, and I have a better sense of how all of you are working. Have they been positive? Are they positive for you?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Good.
Oh yeah.
definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Critiques help.
Yes, they do, and iteration is
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
let's do more of that. I think everybody's got stuff to work on. Jeff, did we get around to discussing the thing you wanted to discuss, or
Yes,
okay,
yes, we got actually 6 seconds added.
okay, all right, um,
You
okay,
know, it was really just about um, if there was some reason that we had to really put a blade on that 45
hmm
second mark, and if there's any breathing room, it'd be nice to know, because then it may allow us a little bit more time to gracefully put something in.
yeah. Well, I have extended the time, which is really unorthodox for not just me, but I mean it's especially unorthodox for me to give you more time to do something. Um, uh, on that. But can anybody tell me why? Does anybody have an idea? Jeff, even, do you have an idea of why there's a time limit and why we try to stick to it?
Oh yeah, I mean, but I think somebody else should answer.
Okay. Anybody else have an idea?
People get bored quickly.
Well, no,
Yeah.
that's a good point to discuss when you're talking about dynamic
Airtime
media.
costs money.
I'm sorry, what?
You want to be able to get, well, first, I said airtime costs money, but
Bingo.
in
That's
this
yeah.
case, you're, in this case, you're presenting this to your client, and you want to be able to grab their attention quick, right there, 45 seconds. Attention span is a huge thing, and
Mhm.
it goes along the same lines of, say, a little bit like way off the subject, but one-page resumes. If you don't have your employer's attention in one page, that's it. You've lost them. So 45 seconds, that's about the attention span. If they don't have the concept in that 45-second block, you might not get another chance.
Well, it's a little bit of all of this and a little bit more. I mean, so yes, attention span. You want to be able to, be done with it, get it done, be done with it. Nobody's bored. Airtime does cost money, and it's remarkably important if you're doing something. This isn't going to be aired as a commercial, but if you were working on a dynamic piece that had a specific a time limit on it, like a commercial, it has to be exactly that amount of time because if you're too short on time, then you end up with blank space. And I think every once in a while we've seen, um, if anybody's old enough to have watched real television, broadcast television, um, you get that you get sort of the credits or you get the title card at the end, which sort of says what this is, and that's not part of the campaign. That's just some information. If you go over, then you end up cutting off time. The people at the station or the network or the channel, whatever, wherever this is going, they're not going to extend time or change time for you and give you an extra couple of seconds. They're going to cut your logo off at the end, and somebody's going to not get to see the full commercial. So yes, time is money essentially, and so you have to live within those parameters. And then the third reason is the idea of those parameters. You have to have having parameters will help you design. If I said go out there and do whatever you want, you wouldn't have anything to stop you from going for 30 minutes and doing massive infomercials for that matter, or just going too long and you're not paying as much attention to timing. You have to have some kind of parameters so that you can design within those parameters. Correct. I mean, I think anybody who's designed it's good to have somebody tell you you can only work with these colors, you can only work with this directive word, and you can only do it for this amount of time. And then you
Mhm.
you have to you have to solve that problem. It's a puzzle that you have to solve. And so those are the reasons for the time limits. And the reason I'm giving you a little bit more here is because the group is working so well, but one area that is problematic is I'm not seeing a lot of good ending times, or endings, and you need to have that quality more so than it's not a commercial, so more so than having it stop right at 45 seconds. I would rather see you work on understanding what it's like to have a natural end or a natural beginning, to have it be easy and not abrupt like that. So that's why I went ahead and said, okay, for this class, I want to see you guys work on getting that quality there. Everybody cool?
Absolutely.
As a
Nice.
cucumber.
Yep.
Nice.
That's nice, Q.
I'm kind of excited to see what you guys come up with. I hope you're motivated because there's good work here. I'm pretty excited. It's a relatively small group, and it's rare that everybody to the majority of people do such a good job. So I'm kind of excited for you all.
Cool, thanks.
All
Yeah.
right.
So Saturday we'll see everybody.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
If I can get out
Bright
of
and
work.
early.
Right. Okay. Bring us some butter beer, Mr. Renner.
Yeah,
Ooh.
All right.
Yeah,
I will
beer.
do my best on that. I'll have
All
to
right.
deliver a egg of it to my house, condo.
All right. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.